Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Hanging with the Hammer. Cue the intro. All right. Well, welcome to Hanging with the Hammer today. I can't even do my own intros today. Today we've got Eric from the Dramatic on the show. I don't know who's in the live stream yet. It usually takes a couple minutes for people to get into the live stream. I promoted it in a couple different places, so who knows?
I saw that. Yeah,
I usually get 10 or 11 people usually, and people pop in and out depending on the day. So I just basically set up the comment side on here so I can see comments when they start coming in. So, but we'll see what happens. I'll write hi to everybody. And of course, I've got the banner saying ask questions. And, but other than that, this is kind of you and me talking about life and stuff.
Sweet.
So, CCM drummer's in. Matthew from Brazil. Thank you, Matthew, for being here today, Mr. CCM drummer. Nice. By the way, Matthew was one of the early guys I met on YouTube, and we talked about different ways of doing drum covers and stuff. But he does all old contemporary Christian music, so it's kind of interesting. You're like the new contemporary Christian music guy. You do a lot of the newer stuff that's out there on the hip Christian radio station. Hi, Sean Woodley. Hi, Claus. Nice to see you all today. So, Eric, tell me a little bit about your background and why you're doing the new contemporary Christian music and some of the things that's led you to starting your channel the way you did start your channel.
Yeah. So there's a little bit to unpack there.
Yeah, take it in little bits too. Little bits are fine, as we always say in the world,
Yeah. So like I remember as a kid, not really having a lot of exposure to a lot of different music. I think I remember my parents having like a Gaither Trio cassette tape, like in the car. And
right.
And when we'd come and visit my grandfather, he would have like an Alabama cassette, or a Kenny Rogers cassette. So that was kind of it. And then when our family moved to New Hampshire, the pastor at the church we were going to was like in his late 20s, early 30s. And he was like, "You guys have never heard Michael W. Smith?" So like Michael W. Smith's Project album was kind of like my first exposure to something other than Kenny Rogers or the Gaithers. And
right.
And
you actually started, let me date you now, because you put yourself in like 1982, 83. How old were you at that point?
82. I would have been 8.
Okay, cool. 82, I would have been 22. Okay. Hi, Camilla. Hi, Lori Jones. Hi, everybody that comes on. I just want to say hi. Why don't you engage you? This is Eric from the Dramatic. And we found out he's 8 years old and he's listening to Michael W. Smith instead of the Gaither Trio. That's good. I never would have listened to the Gaither Trio, by the way. I came to Christ in 1978 in college when I was 18. So I was listening to the CCM of the 70s, the late 70s and the early 80s before Michael W. Smith. But I remember that album specifically because he toured with Amy Grant, and I saw him and Amy Grant in concert in a high school in New Jersey, somewhere up in northern New Jersey with my wife.
Nice. Yeah.
Right around 83, 4, somewhere. It must have been 80. Probably was our first year of marriage. So it was fun. But he was doing that tour of that band. So that album had an effect on you. And I know you just did Strong and Courageous, right?
Yeah. That was a fun one. But that album, what's funny is that album was my first exposure. And then it was a lot of like Michael W. Smith. And then that kind of started to break off as other friends started introducing me to other bands, DeGarmo and Key, White Heart. Trying to think who else was in the mix. Stephen Curtis Chapman came into the mix in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, maybe, in terms of a big artist. And Petra was another one. I got introduced to them on the Beat the System album. I think Matthew may be one of the only people that knows who we're talking about right now. But
Well, yeah, maybe yes, maybe no. I mean, Petra was ended up being pretty big, and Michael
they
W.
were.
Smith crossed over, and Amy Grant, of course, crossed over. So a lot of these artists in the '80s started crossing out of the CCM genre,
Yeah.
And I started in the purest form of CCM when it was just them trying to be rock musicians playing rock music. So I was around in the beginning with Second Chapter Backs, Phil Keaggy, Keith Green,
Yeah.
and then died, and really got into, of course, Rich Mullins, who wrote a lot for Amy,
Oh,
and
yes,
great.
love Rich Mullins.
So, but it's led you to right now doing the contemporary CCM of today. So, and I know none of it, by the way. I'm very underversed in that, unless it's something that shows up in church, and then I
Right.
get exposed to it in the church service scenario. So the Hill songs and all the stuff that comes out of Chris Tomlin and Matt Redman and all that stuff, which is all written by the same people, it seems like, and
right.
the music is really a formula that's scary. You know what I mean? In some respects, you know what I mean? But it's become way normalized, and that's kind of what bums me out about CCM. So I do a lot of the independent CCM stuff with other artists, but they're never going to get traction in the real world. You know what I mean? In the popular music CCM world, because they're just not popular. They can't get it. So
well, and it's funny too. Like some of the new stuff. There was, I think, doing like Christian artists doing, praise and worship music is pretty trendy. There's a whole market for that. Nothing wrong with that. And I enjoy it. But like, I remember playing in church was my growing up experience in terms of playing live, or playing with the youth band. And
right.
And so I remember the evolution of praise and worship music, going from like choruses to with a little bit different production. And then Ron Canoli came on the set with Hosanna Integrity, with having guys like Abraham Laboriel and Chester Thompson and Alex Acuna and all these guys playing it. And you're like, holy crap, this is outstanding,
Yeah. No,
and that kind of got the ball rolling for artists like Chris Tomlin and David Crowder to come on the scene later, and just be like, why can't we just write songs? Why do they have to just be choruses? Or and begin to experiment with like some of the sounds, and then there's always, like, I think in any genre of music, there's always like the people that just kind of stick to a formula and just cookie cut stuff and stay, and then there's other people that are, I think, trying to be creative and trying to do, different stuff and experiment.
David, I listened to a lot of that CCM in the '90s. I don't know if you listened to the Choir.
A little bit. Steve
the Choir was the bands from the late '80s, early '90s, and they weren't quite grunge, but they were more indie. That indie sound. And I forget Steve something. Great drummer. Didn't play a lot. He wasn't like a fancy drummer. He just was a drummer that laid it in with kind of a quirky. Those are the kinds of drummers I always kind of dug. Was like finding somebody who had their own unique thing.
Right.
Necessarily a lot of chops, but they played their own thing. Hey, just want to say hi to FAB Fishing and Drumico and Tate Berkey. Good morning, guys, for being here today. So we're talking to Eric at the Drum Attic, and Eric's telling us a little bit about how he got into CCM. So tell us a little bit about your channel. This is your opportunity to kind of tell us a little about what you're doing and how you got to what you're doing. So let's go to that. Take it off the music to that route.
Little shameless plug for the channel. So just kind of segue to that. It wasn't, and so I grew up listening to primarily just CCM, stuff. I knew of other, like bands that were not in the CCM world that were out there. We would go into a lot of the whys, but it wasn't until college, after an experience where I was like, hey, maybe I need to rethink kind of some of my philosophies on music. And so it wasn't until like after bands like Guns N' Roses had kind of already hit their heyday that I started like, hey, holy moly, these guys are awesome. It's always a little late to the game, I felt like. So when when we kind of had the idea for the Drum Attic, and Loretta and I were talking about it before we moved from Lexington, Kentucky to North Carolina, where we are now. And we knew we were going to have this space to do this in. We were asking ourselves, you know, what we want to do in terms of music, what we want to do that we feel is a little different on the landscape. And so I said, I don't want to just do, you know, Christian music or CCM music. I want to incorporate a lot of different things, because I think that everybody's story is worth hearing, like, you know, through their art. And I think that there's always a lot of good truth to draw from in all of it, and or at least in most of it. I guess there's some just stuff out there that's, you know, pretty shallow and stuff in any genre. You know, you kind of got to find some really thought-provoking stuff. But and then we wanted to talk about why we chose that song, you know, and we gave
that's what you do, by the way. That's one of the more unique things you do. I tried that early on a couple times, talking about the song. Usually on the front end, it doesn't work. You're doing it on the back end. So hopefully people make it to the back end and listen to that aspect of it. You know what I mean? But
right. I did that on purpose, like, because I don't know if this is the right way to approach it, but I was like, it's a drum channel, you know, it's like drum cover channel. So when people stop by, I want them to be getting the drums.
Yeah, that's what most guys looking at drum videos are watching drummers. And that's why the equipment matters, you know, to me. The sound matters to me. How they play matters to me. And then the songs they choose matters. Like, there's certain guys, like, I don't listen to a lot of like metal music, but whenever Trey B comes on,
gosh,
I watch his whole video and listen to him hammering it out, because he's just emotionally in it, you know. And then there's guys like on here like Tate Berkey or Keith Scott. You know, you watch those guys play and you can see them emotionally in it. Or Gunter Drumico, he's playing on an E kit, but he swings and he plays like with the jazz thing, but he makes the E drums come out. There's other guys, they just play, and you know, it's like, okay, and there's not much I'm gleaning from it other than I don't want to play that way, which is not, you know what I mean? So you got to get something from it. So I try to give everybody something when they watch me play. They may not like it. They may not like what I chose.
Right.
But I find that my place to actually talk about the video, since my son passed away, has been the descriptions. A lot of times I'll pick a song for a specific reason. It touches my heart in some way, and I'll write about it. And I don't usually write about it when I finish the video, because I don't release my videos on any kind of a schedule. As any of you all know, you never know when a video is just going to pop up from Earl and just pops out of nowhere. You know, there's no scheduling to anything. And it's almost every day, it seems like these days. But what I do is in the morning, I'll be sitting there in my quiet time and I'll be thinking about why I did something, and I'll just write sometimes. So some of my descriptions are quite descriptive and there'll be a story in it. Other times they're just, hey, I did this song, this is blah, 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 and it's done. But some of the deeper songs I write. But I like the fact that you get in there and you really tell the story, which is kind of cool too. So
yeah, I try to do it in kind of from you know, you're talking about your son passing, and that's one of our shared experiences. We both lost children, and it shapes you, like it changes you, and I think it affects in both, you know, difficult ways, and I think it can affect us in positive ways. And for me, I've tried to make the positive of it if my story, you know, if what I've been through can help somebody else find hope, then I'm willing to kind of bare my soul, and even if it's painful, just for the benefit of another fellow human being that might be feeling like I'm the only one that feels this way. I'm the only one that, you know. So so we didn't, you know, do it to primarily like talk about just that, but just kind of the journey in general. And my goal has always been, as a person of faith, to never sound preachy about it, but just to present it like this has just been my experience, I think I say a lot, maybe too much. I hope you find that encouraging today, at the end of the
Right.
videos. For those that stick around, for all 6 minutes to watch what we have to say. And I'll tell you guys this right now. I'm really excited about this. In the very near future, we're going to start hearing from Loretta more, because she is going to start picking like a song, and then I'll play it, and then she's going to talk about why she picked that song for me to play. And I'm really excited.
That's an interesting aspect of your channel too, is that your wife's involved in it. And I don't know if you know this about my channel, but the reason why I play so many drum covers is my wife's a university professor, but my wife has always supported my career. I mean, from day one, when we were poorer than poor and we got married and my son was on the way. And when I got married in 1983, she had a 3-year-old daughter. She's a couple years older than me. And I was 22. And right out of the gate, six weeks into our marriage, she got pregnant. And we were like, now 2 kids. By the end of my first year of marriage, I had 2 kids. So at one point in that first year, I realized I need to make more money. I'm not making enough money. So I'm going to quit I'm gonna quit playing music, and I'm just gonna go work at a gas station or something. And my wife goes, no, you can't do that. You got to get a gig. And she helped me get a gig. And the gig was what our extra money. And eventually Lucy wanted to be in the show. And then she got in the show because she's a singer. She was a worship leader at the church. And then I got her in the band. And then I did, then she wrote music. And the reason I have a recording studio is because I did her album. In 2000, I started working on her album pretty full-heartedly in it. And by 2005, produced an album for the first time, So 5 years into having a studio, and my first project was my wife's album, really. And that's where I started my studio, album career, with working on other people's stuff, engineering and things like that. But if my wife wasn't there, I wouldn't even have a YouTube channel. She's the one who said to me, you should talk to the camera. She's the one who said, I would every once in a while drop a video on YouTube just for fun. I have like an old, one of my first videos was like Chicago's Beginnings. I did that. And then I did the Zombies Time of the Season, which has got like 10,000 hits or something stupid on it, 4 years ago. But that wasn't the reason why I started the YouTube channel. You started a YouTube channel because my wife said you should talk to the camera. People like to listen to you talk about drums. That's why people watch me. And that's been really my thing here. This is what this show is. That's what Ask Girl Anything is, drum talk. When I'm talking about drums and equipment, people just stay for a bit, And I realize there are other guys that do that, So, are you talking?
Yeah. Oh, you're so knowledgeable about it too.
Yeah.
I always find, like, when I listen to you talk, I'm not a
geek.
And maybe I should know more about this, but when you talk about the symbol, the weight of a symbol, like the grams of it and whatever, I'm like I find that fascinating. But I'm like, if somebody said, what is your 17-inch A custom weigh, I'd be like, I don't know about, hold it and be like, I don't know about a pound or 2. I don't know.
Right. Exactly.
But it's awesome, having a wife that is supportive, and involved in it. In fact, this room that we're in, this is the house that we live in, was the house my great grandparents built. Mm-hmm. And so it's like 110 years old. And we're fortunate enough to have an outlet in this room. But when we moved in, we were going to use this room just for storage because it's kind of small. It's kind of odd shaped. It looks way bigger in the videos than it is in person, I promise.
Oh, I know what your room looks like, because I had a Cape Cod house in Asbury Park with an upstairs just like you've got, with the sides coming in on it. And it's a very small room. I know it. It's not really a big room at all.
Yeah, when I get into the kit, my butt knocks ball hats off the wall, or I'll pull one of my little acoustic pads off the wall with my head, but we were going to put the drums in our office space up here. And when we were working on the house, getting it ready, Loretta said, I don't think the drums are going to fit in here.
Right.
She said, what if you take that room and we paint it and just turn that into a drum studio? I was like, what? You know, and that's new to me. Dig deep into my past when I came out of a bad marriage, and I'm not used to having that kind of support behind me, you know. So
Right. That's what I
it's
mean.
it's night and day, you know, and so she, you know, I'm like, hey, what about this song? And there's been songs where I was like, I want to do this song, but I can't really, you know, I can't find exactly how to approach it from a talking about it standpoint. And she'll be like, well, they're talking about yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. That's it. That's that's the thing we need to address in that song. And then, and I love when she teases me. She's like, you got to give me more time to be ready for camera. Like, I realize, Eric, that you're bald and you could just put a t-shirt on and nobody knows you just rolled out of bed. But yeah, dude, it's fantastic. And the fact that she encourages and, you know, allows me to, and not allows me, but is okay with me, you know, spending money on gear. You know, she's not like, oh my God, did you need to buy, you know, like, she's like, yeah, you need that. Did you get that? Did you order that thing yet for your drum set? You know, it's awesome. It's fantastic.
Having somebody that supports you is very important as a musician. And I will say this, that I'm blessed in that respect. And I know a lot of guys that they get married and all of a sudden the woman turns the other direction on things, you know.
Yeah.
They love the fact they were a drummer before they got married, but then once they got married, it's like, stop being a kid, grow up, take care of the family, you know. And that's the one thing my wife and I never did to each other. I mean, we believe that living our dreams is what life's about, you know. So she's written
Yes.
books and recorded albums, and we've done all kinds of crazy stuff together because they're the things we love doing, and she knows this is what I love to do, so she supports it.
That's
And
awesome.
that is really that's a big deal in a relationship, and a lot of
Yes.
guys don't get that, and then they get into the marriage from hell because there's no support of what each other does, you know. And I love what she does just as much. I mean, I support it too.
Yes.
I mean, when she wanted to go for a doctorate, I mean, we didn't really have a way to do it. We just trusted God, and He provided ways for us to make all that happen. And that I have a lot of miracle stories in my life. You know, I'm not a heavy. You're not going to hear me start talking about name it and claim crap because I've been down that road in the church once. But I know that I don't buy that, but I do know God's favor on my life I've seen in so many ways, and I can testify to His goodness. And that's where I kind of live, you know. And the fact that my wife and I are married 38 years and we're more in love than ever before, and she still supports me and all the crazy stuff I'm about, and I support all the stuff she's about. That's what life's about. That's, you know, it's about being with people and caring about people. So that's a big part of, you know, what I do with my drum channel is like I want to support others. So this show is really an opportunity for all these people here to ask questions and throw stuff out. If anybody out there has a question for Eric or I or both of us, ask some questions. I'm glad you're all listening to me intently this week. But, you know, as you all know, questions make the show. And if you have questions, we'll kind of go down a different road sometimes. That's always helpful to do that. So thank you all for being on the show right now. Sean and Claus and FAB Fishing and Keith Scott and everybody out there. Thank you all for being there. I'm sure there's a few others too. So one of the things you said, you did a recent video, Eric, that was about how you make drum covers. And one of the things you said that just kind of was so different than me. This was so different than me. Was you said something like you've got the whole year planned out. You've got like on a calendar, on a whiteboard somewhere, you've got it all kind of planned out what you're doing each week. And I walked in here this morning and I wasn't sure what I was doing when I walked in here this morning. Now, I will tell Sean Woodley that I did do Heavenly Places, and I'm going to send you a preview copy today, Sean, at some point when I load it on YouTube. I'm not going to release it today, but the point is I came in here not sure what I was doing this morning, and I just pull songs out of my butt, it seems like, and find and load it into extract stems and pull myself a track and off I go.
Yes.
So you seem much more organized. So I want to hear I want to understand this aspect of being organized and why you think that's the way to success. I want to understand that.
Well, I guess I think I said to you in or I didn't say this, but the idea is like, different strokes for different folks. Um, if I could do what you did, or like what you do, like you said, you walked in this morning and we're like, I'm gonna do this song, I would probably do it that way. I have some anxiety, so like if I don't have a game plan, I'll lose sleep at night. Thinking, okay, so now if I do this song tomorrow, and I just about lost sleep trying to do that new 21 Pilots song, Shy Away, because it was so far out of how I planned. Right. I heard the song, spent a Saturday with it. Loretta was out of town. We filmed it Monday on a lunch break. I edited it quickly so we could put it up that Wednesday. Wow. Which meant everything else had to shift. I had to, okay, well, I'm going to move this song down here to put Shy Away up here. And I would like for like 2 nights, I was like, okay, then if I edit it, and my brain's always working on like how I feel like I want it to look visually when I'm done. Excuse me. And so it's for me, it just kind of helps me stay focused for me. So I have a document on my computer. It's got a couple of holes in it that need to be filled, but like I have song ideas, we'll call them song ideas for all the way through 2021. Now that said, I'm not married to that list, right? So if something pops up, I'm like, ooh, I'd rather do that song, then I'll put it in, And so for me, it's always been like, if I have a plan, it's easier for me to kind of deviate a little bit and shift as opposed to scrambling.
Well, I'm not gonna say I don't have a plan. Let me just put it this way: my plan is just not as solid as some of you guys. Like Tate Berkey's saying, he's more like you. He schedules them, make sure they're in tip-top shape. And by the way, Tate's drum covers are right on the money.
Yes, they are.
Drummer, I know he stresses over making sure every note is exact. So he'll work on things 4 or 5 months. Tell me I'm wrong, Matthew, in the comments if I'm wrong. But you've told me many times that's what you do. So it's a different world. I will say the reason I do my drum covers the way I do is, number one, my whole career, 45 years, I've had to learn songs quickly. So for me, I get kind of bored if I'm playing the same thing over and over again for 2 weeks, even to get it perfect. It just doesn't do that for me. And the second thing is, it's a studio skill. Like I did a recording session this week. I did for my friend Danny Brunges. He's the worship leader at my church. He's working on his own personal album, and he had 2 songs he needed me to do. And I've worked with Danny on our own church projects, and I know how he records. It's in the new style. You record, like we recorded the ending part, the outro part, more than before we went back and recorded the middle where I was really playing. But that's how things get recorded today. I'm the kind of guy that likes to play music and just play it through. And get a vibe in the room with a bunch of musicians, and that's the take, that's how you get it. But that's not how we record today. Everything's done in little, sections, and they're all gridded, and the world has changed so much. It's not even funny. So I knew what I was getting into this week. He came over, and it was the fastest session I ever had with him. I literally listened to his demo a couple times, the one song, and then he brought a second one in, which was just me playing brushes, which he let me do my vibe, and it was like, that was it. I like 3 takes, I was done. The other one took me a little bit longer, but not really, we did it in less than an hour and a half, 2 songs. Well, the reason I can do that is because I'm so used to figuring things out quickly, because my ears, I kind of rest on my ears, and that's my practice. So when I do drum covers, it's me going, all right, I'm going to give myself an hour to do this song. That's all I get. Turn it on, start playing. Oh, not catching the beginning. Let's go it again. And I'll hit it again and we'll do it again. Sometimes I'll play it all the way through. Sometimes I'll play it halfway. when I'm all done, said and done, at the end of that, I've played it as well as I want to play it that day. That's it. Print it,
Yeah.
you know, then do the video aspect of it. And that's where I can get things done so quick, because I'm not really spending the setup is this stuff, you know. Putting up a green screen is now a setup. You know what I mean? Where am I going to put the green screen? Where am I going to put the camera?
Right.
The mics are all set up in my studio. That's one of the good things about mine. I don't really move stuff in the studio too often, but every once in a while I say, oh, I want different drums. Well, if I want different drums, then I got to mess the drum kit up, you know. But it's me trying to be. I always wanted to be a studio drummer. That's what I wanted to be. So for me, it's like I want the vibe of, like, I'm vibing with Chuck Rainey playing on an Aretha Franklin song. It's like I'm listening to Chuck in my headphones, the bass part, and I'm going, well, I'm putting my vibe. I know Bernard was playing it, but it doesn't really matter. I'm still going to put me in there a little bit, and that's who I am, you know. So
Yeah.
It's definitely one of those things where it's just two different approaches. But I respect your approach. I respect Tate's and Matthew's CCM drummers approach, and hi, Zach Drums being on today. Welcome.
And I should add too that, like, that video that I made, I don't think I may not have said this in the video, but it's clearly, you know, our channel is growing. It's, you know, we're, I think, at like 340 or something like that. But like, so we're not like this big channel, but I was just like, hey, this is what seems to be working for us. Let's share that. So it's certainly not a definitive, like, if you don't do it this way, you know what I mean? Like, I kind of do it too, because we're, you know, it's not like we're this huge channel or anything, but but it is.
No,
it's like,
and you know, none of us are huge. I mean, I have 4,300 subscribers. You know, I'm not Cinna. I mean, Cinna's got 1 million. You know, she's got a production team. She's got drum endorsements, and, you know, or Cooper drum. I don't normally mention these guys because, truthfully, it's like they started 10 years ahead of me. You know, and when they started, they were young kids. They didn't really know what they were doing anyhow. You know, they were learning as they went along. Somebody latched on to them, and they took advantage of it. I mean, and I'm glad that there's advantages to people that I'm a 60-year-old white male, so crud. You know, I'm privileged. Okay, I get it. You know, it's the new world I live in. You know, I am privileged. Look at all the gear I have. Look at all the stuff I've acquired over all this time. You know. So let the youngsters get the endorsements and have all the fun, and that's great. But I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it for the fun and communicating with guys like you and sharing the love of music with people. That's what I do it for. Because if you're trying to make money on drum covers, man, you're like, forget about it. You know, this is not the world.
Right.
Do that. And like Chadwick says, tearing down the drums is the most fun part about it, right? So tearing the drums down.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, just it's kind of, you know, I do want to see our channel grow, because but at the end of the day, like I said in that video too, like, you know, if we don't get another subscriber, I'd still keep doing it, because I love it. I love the process of it, and I love the connection, you know, and the people that I get to meet, you know, like you know, you and I have talked on the phone before. I love that. There's a couple other guys that I communicate with, you know, through Marco Polo or through text. And then just even through YouTube, you know, some wonderful people that you know, you get to engage with back and forth. And I think that's worth it, whether you have 1 subscriber or 1 million subscribers. You know, that's of course, with 1 million subscribers, I don't think you can have the same kinds of connections, because you couldn't possibly.
Your community changes considerably, you know. And I noticed that for a couple guys that have higher levels of subscribers, it's harder to get to them. But the funny thing about our world is, with COVID, the whole world changed. And now you got guys like Jerry Murata, Peter Gabriel, Hall & Oates. I mean, and he's got a YouTube channel. He's got like 1,000 subscribers, and I'll write him something. I'll say, hey man, that sounded great what you put up there, Jerry. And he's like, you want to watch a great drummer, watch Jerry Murata. You know, if you ask me, he's like one of the greatest drummers out there. But nobody knows that, you know. And he posts all this stuff of him and his band, and he's just trying to eke out a living now in his 60s, you know. And the studio work's not the same, but he's still got a studio and he's still doing it, you know. And to me, it's like finding those guys and communicating with them, or Kurt Biscara. Kirky B's got like 100 subscribers, you know? So every time he puts a drum hack, I comment on it, and he writes me back and he says something. It's like we can communicate with our heroes now in a way that you never could before, you know? Right. And it's just kind of funny, you know, that it's the guys I want to talk to have no subscribers because they're new to YouTube. They don't even know what to do with it, to be honest. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's an interesting new world we live in. Hi, Jeff Holden's on, and Zach Drums, and Chadwick. Hi, guys. So go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hey, I came across Chris McHugh on YouTube, and Chris McHugh, I don't know what his earliest thing was, but my first exposure to him was Whiteheart. and you know, they had Tommy Sims on bass, and of course those guys have gone on to be big session players in Nashville. McHugh, there's not a country album I think you can pick up that he's not been involved with, you know, like in the last 20 years. But he tours, you know, he's Keith Urban's guy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And I came across him. I was like, how does Chris McHugh only have 80 subscribers? But it's just like what you said, because these guys aren't touring.
Yeah, so they're jumping on YouTube. Now, I will tell you, my great regret is Chris McHugh. I don't know if you know this about me, but my wife used to write for Modern Drummer magazine.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So in 1987, she wrote a 2-part article on Christian drummers, the contemporary Christian drummers. And she did Louis from Petra. She did Edwards with Amy Grant. She did the 2 guys from Glad, which were favorite drummers of mine. One was Art Noble, is a friend of mine, and I've met a few times and talked to. She did the other drummer from Glad. Oh my gosh, loved my wife so much she put his name on one of the albums.
John Gates.
John Gates, yeah, and John passed away a few years ago too.
Did he really?
Yeah, he did. He passed away about 3 or 4 years ago.
Oh,
a great drummer. So, but the one guy that sent us a package was Chris McHugh, and he sent us a Whiteheart album. I still have it, and I didn't like Whiteheart, so he didn't get in. And I hate the fact I did that. So much for me picking the drummers, man. I blew that one big time. I wish I picked funny. Because, you know, I wish I picked them. I mean, I know John Hammond. John Hammond played on an album that I played on, so that's where I know John Hammond from. Great guy. Greg Morrow from Amy Grant. My wife interviewed him. Yes.
And DeGarmo
and yeah. So I've met and talked to him a bunch of times. We almost got Steve Brewster in. Steve Brewster was the guy who used to play on all the Rich Mullins stuff.
Yeah.
I love Steve Brewster's playing. He has never gotten in Modern Drummer for some reason. So, but there was like this window, and my wife presented CCM drummers because of me. She started writing for Modern Drummer because of me, not because she's a drum crazy person, but she did it because I love drums, and I have 45 years of Modern Drummer magazine in my studio.
Right.
I've never stopped subscribing to it. I don't know why I subscribe to it anymore. I barely read it, but I still get it coming to my house, you know? So that's how crazy I am. Hi, Eric F. Drums. Welcome to the show today. If you guys have any questions, throw them out. I see the comments, man, and the comments are great. You know, I want to ask you a question about channel branding and stuff. I've been toying with the idea of doing T-shirts. And even went on Teespring a couple weeks ago and tried to set something up, but then I got stopped. Somehow I couldn't get through the design the T-shirt section for some reason. You're big on T-shirts, so explain how that's helping your channel, and you know.
Yeah, and you know, as you bring that up, in hindsight, this would have been a great opportunity to wear one of my T-shirts. Instead, I went with Superman.
It's amazing. I almost wear my Super Dad shirt, but not.
You know. Yeah, I know you've got that one. I like it when you wear that. I'm like, cool. Yeah, T-shirts. Also, that I remember that article. Of course, I didn't know you, and so I wouldn't have known that was your wife. But I had that copy of Modern Drummer magazine because they sold it at the little music shop I was taking lessons at the time. And I remember see, yeah, Louis Weaver, John Gates. I remember, is it Keith Edwards? Yeah, I remember reading that article. As they
Yeah,
were
then
saying,
there's this one guy from this band called Eternity Express, who my wife somehow interviewed this guy because he played at our church. And I was like, why are we doing this guy? This guy, we should put Chris McHugh in. No.
Oh, poor Chris McHugh. He's a phenomenal drummer. It's always respected him. But in terms of t-shirts, I'm a big visual person, so like I again, so like I like that, like if I look through other than the shorts I've tried to do the last 2 weeks, when I look through my list of videos, they all look like they came from the same place, and I like that uniformity. So and then
that's the thing about green screen. That's why the green screen kind of pops some stuff. That's what Chadwick taught me about the green screen. It changes your videos. It makes them not as uniform.
Yeah, but I mean, in terms of like thumbnails, like so I can see, I see like everything kind of has like, oh, that's a Drumatic thumbnail, or that's going to be a Drumatic video. And then we'll play with like things in the studio. I'll get back to the t-shirt here in a minute, but we'll play with stuff in the studio, like different lights, and or I'll do some stuff in post to kind of give it a different look,
Right.
And then there's other stuff where I'm like, this doesn't need to be a spectacle. This just needs to be, like we did From Where You Are by Lifehouse in February, because that was the anniversary of my son's passing. And so I used, it's very green. I used the green light in here because that was his favorite color. Stuff that is only for me, right? Like, unless you knew my son, you wouldn't have known why that color was chosen. The sticks I used were the sticks that he played with the day that he passed. So like, and I was like, I don't need a lot of fancy editing. I did it all in camera, one take,
Yeah.
Anyway. So we tried.
I understand what you're saying about the personal stuff like that. I mean, like, I don't know if you know this, but the hat I normally have on, which I didn't put on when we got on today because it's sitting over there I just took it off for that video I just did this morning. That's my son's hat.
Yeah.
That's why I wear that hat. That hat has been in every video since he passed that I remember to put it on. It's almost every video.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember you told me that. I think that's awesome. I wear this little dog tag with the theater masks on it because Thomas had gone on a trip with some friends, and he came back. He said, "Hey, Dad, I saw this and it made me think of you because I did a lot of theater and acting and stuff as well." And so, so that's always, I've never not worn this.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, there's certain things that, like in my videos, that I place for reasons. There's reasons they're there. Tate Berkey had a question I wanted to kind of jump on for a second. What's your go-to recording mic setup? Do you have a go-to recording mic setup for your drums that you're using these days? I'll tell you mine at the end, but
yeah, we started when we started off, you could see them in here. I like these two overhead microphones. I had already had those. So I just bought like literally a really cheap drum mic. It's the brand is Heimu, Heimu, I think. I paid like $30 for it. I bought a 4-channel Behringer USB interface. And in the first handful of covers were just recorded with those. So like tom, snares, cymbal, everything was just being recorded from these overheads. And I was like, that's okay. That's not too bad. And then I added, spent $20 and bought a snare mic from the same company. And
those overheads from that same company, or are they from somewhere else?
No, they're, I want to say MXL brand. Right. I don't know. They're a little bit nicer of mics. And but then a friend of mine, and it's just funny just how some of this stuff happens. A friend of mine called me up. It's like, "Hey man, I love the Drumatic." I'm like, "Hey, thanks, dude." He said, "I've got an 8-channel PreSonus US interface, like USB interface if you want it." I'm like, "Oh, how much do you want for it?" He goes, no, man, just what's your address? I'll send it to you. I'm like, all right, cool.
Yeah. There are
So
some very kind people out there. I mean, Michael Perry sent me some parts for a Ludwig stand and handed me a Tama stand. I mean, I've had guys do that too, so I know what you're talking about. You know, they said,
it's,
I think you could use this more than I do. You're talking about this stuff. You know, I don't use it. It just sits in my, you know, let me throw it in a box and send it to you. So there are some really kind people out there. I will tell you that.
there are, and I won't mention any names right now because I don't know if they would want me to, but I do have a guy that watches our channel. Great dude. He called me up and was like, hey, I'm going to send you these Shure PGA 56 Tom mics. You know, I've used them for.
He just upgraded your Tom mics, is what you're telling me.
Yeah, and a kick drum mic too. He said, oh, and I think it's a PGA 52. And I'm like, well, that mic is worth more than all of the mics like on my kit right now. But I guess so and then we record to Logic. I had another guy go, hey, do you want one of my licenses for Logic Pro? And I'm like, okay. So we were using GarageBand and 3 mics to start, added a snare mic, and then now, you know, now I've got one on the hats. I've got, you know, everything's mic'd. And I think that it's good. It can also create more issues because then you got more stuff to EQ and worry about how it's, you know, sounding in I don't know.
The phase and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy it, but I just like I experiment. I'll experiment with different EQs on them, and kind of I've experimented with some placements, you know, in terms of and I've played in the studio before, like a long time ago, like not as a gig, but for myself and for another friend of mine, and so I have a little experience just kind of with placements already, but like.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm answering Tate's question.
You answered it well enough to what your setup is, and that's cool. I mean, everybody's got a different setup. I mean, my setups I'm infamous for changing things around here. So my baseline setup starts with good overheads and a good kick and snare mic. Then the Tom mics, you can get away with a lot of different things for Tom mics, what I've learned. So
Yeah.
for overheads, on my studio kit, my Gretsch kit in the other room, I've got 2 SM81 in a coincident pair over my head. On this kit right here, I've got a set of Octavas right above my head right here. They're MK012s, and they're Russian-made microphones. I bought them about 20 years ago at Guitar Center. Really cheap, but they are great, nice-sounding microphones that I use for overheads. They're in a coincident. Coincident makes it phase. It takes the phase problem out. If you do space pair and you're in a studio where things are bouncing around all the time, you move it out of phase. You can throw your phase right out, just a half an inch, messes everything up. So I basically have learned since I've been doing drum covers, keep it in coincident because I'm moving stuff around. That doesn't move. Now the drum kit, kick drum mics are big, so I've got a Beta 52 on that kick drum, on the one in the studio over there. And I've got a D112E on the kick drum in here. So I've got 2 different kick drum mics. An SM57 on both snare drums. That's the standard. And if I put a snare mic on the bottom and maybe another 57, today I've got a 421 and a Sennheiser 421, which is a great Tom mic. I wish I had 5 of them, but I only have 1. And then my other Tom mics on my Gretsch kit right now are the E604s. The Sennheiser E604s. I bought a mic set last year after I did an album project with a band called Mona Lisa Tribe. And that was part of my payment I used for buying those microphones. And they're clip-ons. And right now in here, I've got a hodgepodge. I got a 58 on the 10. I've got a 57 on the 13. I've got this Russian-made microphone right here, which is an Octava 319 over the 2 14 and 16 Tom. And then I've got a CAD microphone. I think it's CAD. No, it's Audio-Technica drum mic kit that I got at Guitar Center on one of their guitar blowout, you know, their blowout days. I think it was Memorial Day. It used to go for like $150. They were selling it for $40 for 4 microphones. So I bought the whole set. So it was $10 a microphone, but they're actually really pretty good microphones. For toms, they're fine. But that's kind of what I use. I think the key thing is overheads and kick and snare mic, and then your toms you can get away with a lot. But if you're going to spend some money on microphones, buy the Sennheisers are really good. I think they're a great tom microphone. Beta 52 is my favorite kick drum mic, even though the D112E is a great mic too. Works fine on kick drum. Can never go wrong with a 57. I would try an Audix i5 someday if I ever get around to it. Haven't got to it yet though. Let's see. Do we have any other questions in here? Thank you. Jim's Flies 2 is on today. I see you. Hi. And Eric F. Drums and drum covers by Bill. Hello. I see them talking about thumbnails. Yes, my thumbnail, by the way, if anybody's seen my thumbnail on my videos, it's actually a drawing I did on my iPad, my doodle drawings of drums. So that's actually my art. I'm not really much of an artist, though. My son was more of an artist than me. But any questions in here? Listening while I practice four-stroke roughs. Jim, that is great. Eric, how much do you practice, by the way? Tell me your practice routine.
Okay. So kind of going back to when we were talking about how we plan, I wish that I had the ability to take a song, and I guess I do this sometimes when I play in church. Like I'll listen to it on a Saturday and have a good enough idea, to make it work on a Sunday. But with stuff in the drum attic, I'll just kind of spend a week working with 2 or 3 songs. Just trying them out, familiarizing myself, kind of finding the way that where I can kind of color it a little bit without overplaying, and then I will and a lot of times I find my practice time is my 30-minute lunch break, like from my 9 to 5, which is cool and not cool. Like it's sometimes I'll spend more time when I can. But I guess my biggest struggle with practice time is that I'm always working towards another cover, to get stuff ahead. And I like to have stuff filmed and ready like 2, 3, 4 weeks out, so that if something comes up, it's all ready to go and I can take a week off if I needed to. So I guess the thing I need to try to make more time for is actually continuing to spend time with rudiments and even just playing without music, and just kind of trying to find some new creative things to do. And I hear other guys do videos about, this is how I spend the first 20 minutes of my rehearsal, and that's why they're so awesome. They're doing all these really good drum exercises, and I'm working towards that song, and which is
I hear you. So you practice pretty much for the work, what you're working on. That's what you're telling me, pretty much.
Yeah.
Occasionally you'll do something, practice on a pad, but you're not really sitting there hammering it out. I'm teaching some lessons right now. I'm teaching one lesson actually. Sean Woodley, who's on here, is taking lessons from me on Skype, or we'll say FaceTime, Zoom actually, technically. But it's forced me to actually practice a little bit on a pad for the first time in months. I don't find myself on a pad very often. Like I have a pair of sticks near my desk that I'll pick up once in a while, and a pad over there, my office, because I work from home. So I'll sometimes sit there with my sticks and just do doubles and singles and stuff. But for the most part, I don't practice. I just don't do it. If I do anything, the one thing I've started doing in my studio is like what I like to do sometimes, like when I get my brain gets filled at work and I need a moment of break, I'll get up, go to the bathroom, and sometimes I'll walk into the studio and I'll sit at the kit for 5 minutes. So what I've been doing lately is I've got a Tama metronome sitting there, and I'll set the metronome at any tempo, and I'll start playing a groove with it. And a lot of times I'll choose really slow tempos like 56 and just see if I can lock in with it without it in my headphones, but just listening to it and just locking into it for 5 minutes or something, just see if I can sit there and go off on it a little bit, and just to hold me together kind of thing. I find that kind of practice helps my time. And I think time is the most important thing for me right now. But I wish I had my hands together, and I wish I had time to spend on my hands, but I never did when I was in college either. So that's kind of the funny aspect
Right.
of this.
Right. Well, and I think part of what you do, and you kind of mentioned this earlier with some other drummers, and like I've seen all the people that are in our chat group, and I watch, like, I think 90% of the people that are in here that I know that have drum channels, Tate and Eric F and Zach's and Bill, all those guys. Anyway, part of, I think, half the battle, I mean, is I think just feeling what you're playing and enjoying the moment that you're in. You know, you can hit. I think you can play it tight, hit all the right beats, and it sounds, perfect, but it has no feeling, no emotion at all. So I think, I think playing with, I think the playing with feeling is what connects on a personal level with people, maybe, like, um, um, and I think that's what happens with us too. Like, I don't say this as a self-deprecating thing, but like I'm looking at the people in our list, and you're drumming, Earl, and I'm like, I'm not as technically proficient as any of these guys, like, but I love to do it, and and the songs that we pick have have meaning. So I think there's a personal connection, and you do the same thing too. Like the songs that you pick, it's not just I need a song today. I mean, it's something that has been important to you or speaks to you, and
Oh
you
yeah.
play that with that feeling, and it makes a difference. It's like a singer hitting all the right notes but having no passion.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think having a vibe is really what guys watch these videos for. If there's no vibe on it, I mean, even if it's a lesson video, if there's not some kind of a vibe in what they're doing, they're enjoying it. And if they're just going through the motions, it doesn't really say anything. And music's about communicating emotions. So the key is, though, that you have to learn with music is to let the emotions out, but don't allow yourself to rush or allow yourself to get crazy.
Yes.
But learn how to contain the emotions in a way that makes it musical and people can lock with you. And
Yes.
that's what I miss playing to tracks. Playing to tracks, I am trying to lock with those guys. They're not going to move. I'm going to move. You know what I'm saying? Which is different than when I'm on the bandstand tomorrow playing drums for the church service. They're all going to lock to me. And especially because we don't have a click. I mean, I played in churches with clicks and everybody's listening to clicks. And people don't necessarily listen to the drummer sometimes for some reason. I don't know why. I've had those experiences. Right. But for the most part, when you're on a bandstand where there's no click, you're all listening to the drummer to kind of hold it together. So I feel like a responsibility not to throw anybody out the window, in left field by doing something crazy. So I'll lay everything in a way that keeps everything together. And I've learned that's my strength. Singers like working with me because I set them up. You know what I mean? I know how to set them up. Like they're having a hard time. Like, when do I come back in? But don't worry about it. I'm gonna set you up. Pat Boone, Debbie Boone. We're gonna be right there, and you're gonna land in on the right spot. That comes with playing with musicians, and I think that's what's missing in YouTube world is we don't play enough with musicians.
Right.
We're playing with great musicians, but we're not playing with musicians, so nobody's reacting to us. So that's the missing piece to the whole thing.
Sure.
So,
I had a praise and worship leader that I worked with at our church in Lexington. And the first time I worked with her, my experience previously with the worship leader had been, hey, stay with me, which is weird as a drummer. And it's like, okay, so if he pushed and pulled, my job was to, try to find that and ebb and flow with him. And this lady said, she stopped and she said, you need to boss me around with your drums. Don't come to me. I'll come to you. So I, put the click in. It was like, all right, God, it just laid it down, and like everybody else had to, Yeah,
I know exactly what you're talking about. I used to work with a guy named Mike Dacey. Mike Dacey was a LA recording musician. He became a pastor. He played on a lot of those hit records from the 60s and 70s. And I used to tour with Mike occasionally. And Mike, I played with him in a church one day, and actually the first time I played with him in church, and we were laying something down, and he goes, "Everybody submits to the drummer." That was his line. He goes, "Everybody submits to the drummer. Where the drummer puts it is where we stay." So then he looked at me, he said, "You better keep the tempo steady. That's your job. Your job's hold this thing together. Don't do anything crazy. Hold it together." And that's the responsibility of the drummer, was to hold the thing together. And usually the bass player and the drummer, if they're working in tandem together, that's what they're doing. They're holding the band down. And if the guitar player wants to push and pull, you don't go with them. You kind of hold it there, and they got to find themselves back on you. Same with the vocalists, you know. Yeah. I worked at this one other church where I was subbing for a drummer there, and the drummer said to me, he goes, "I hate when the singers sing off the click." And I'm thinking to myself, you want your singers to be singing with the click? That's not really letting them be who they are. You know what I mean? You hold the band, you hold it together, and everybody in the band is locked to the tempo. But if the singer wants to do the push and pull, you just got to stay there, and then they got to find their way back on it, and let them have their moment, because you don't want them to lose their emotion worrying about a click track. That's not what singers do. You want them to stay in pitch, you want to be, they want melodically correct, but the click is not really what you're looking at. You're looking at something else. So, hey, Mateo, a couple of people showed up. Mateo's on. Hi, Mateo and Bill and Eric. Any other questions out there? Let's see. It's good to hear you. The same. Oh, talking about drum covers, Yeah, I mean, we all find our inspiration from different places, I guess. Don't see any other questions here. I'm sorry I'm doing that. All right, so they're chatting. That's good. I like to see the chat going. Then I don't have to really play with it. So every once in a while I get distracted by the chat. This is part of live streaming these days.
Hey, did that help your question, what Earl I said about microphones? I think Tate's videos, he's got I think he has a great sound. Like the mix on his kit is super good. I think if anybody is like not using mics at all, like even something is better. Like I feel like some of the phones will pick it up all right. But if you've got like, even just like you said, Earl, like a kick, a snare, and a couple overheads, your sound, even like with our the mics we're using right now, these Hi-Mu mics, the difference between that and the phone audio is night and day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I agree with you. I mean, there's only a couple cameras that have great microphones on them, like a Zoom camera. A lot of times sounds pretty good. It's got built-in compression, but the iPhones I'm surprised at the compression and the way it works.
Yes.
For music. I'm surprised that they sound okay, but I would never want to use that as my drum track. You know what I mean? I am so happy I'm using a DAW and I've got a nice sound, but that's part of why I'm doing it this way. I want it to sound a certain way. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So what are you using for editing your videos?
Editing. So hold on 1 second. I'm just going to, Eric, the chat as we're talking, and Eric F asked, ever eat a sandwich while drumming? I think that's what that is, a sandwich. I like little emoji asking for a friend. No, if I eat a sandwich while I'm playing, I can barely stay in time just concentrating. And if I eat a sandwich right before, I'll fall asleep. And then and Zach's drums in golf is asking if I'll ever use a green screen in the future. I don't know. It's pretty cool. Like Earl and Chadwick and a couple other guys do it, and it's a really cool effect. So I've thought about it. I'm not sure how to implement it yet in our space, but it could be a thing in the future. And then okay, Earl, what did you ask me?
Oh, I don't know. That's okay. We lost it for a moment there. I mean, eating a sandwich while playing is not really one of my top things I'd like to be doing. That's not what I do. I might eat the sandwich though before I say that before playing, but even taking a drink of water while like playing's pretty tough at that point, and staying in the
Yeah.
pocket, you know. Shoes, socks,
Yeah.
barefoot playing. All right, Eric's asking a serious question now. He's asking, do
Yes.
we play in what types of shoes, socks, or barefoot playing? Let me take this one first. I'll let you give your approach after this, okay?
Okay.
This is from 45 years of playing. When I was younger, I used to love to play in my barefoot. That bare feet playing was great at home. When I was on a gig, I would slip my shoes off. I played a lot of weddings where I had to be in a tuxedo and a pair of black leather shoes, and I would take the shoes off and play with my socks. I loved playing that way. And then all of a sudden I hit 50 and something changed in my body. And if I play with bare feet now, my bottoms of my feet hurt. So I've learned to play in pretty much in boat shoes or sneakers. I can play in dress shoes. I don't like to. I don't usually play with heels. Heels are a problem. I don't know how Sheila E. plays with pumps. I have no idea how she does that, But that's Sheila E. She can do what she can do,
Anything over 4 inches, I can't deal with. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I can't play with anything bigger than 4-inch heels. No, I'm joking. I've got really small feet. So my feet, like if I play bare feet, slide off the pedals pretty easy. I really like to play with my Chuck Taylors, my Converse shoes.
Yeah.
As I've gotten older, they're not great shoes to stand in all day long or to go on long walks, and they don't have a lot of padding. But boy, I love playing drums in my Chuck Taylor, Converse canvas shoes. I like that.
That's what they call them now, Chuck Taylors. That's what they're called. I used to call them
All Stars. Yeah, I don't know. What
I got a pair of them. I just don't wear them that often. But
yeah,
you have to lace them up all the time. I'm getting old. I want slip-on shoes. Easy.
Yeah, that's right. Zach. Right? Zach's drums reminded us of the question you asked: what editing software I use
right. Okay.
for the video earlier.
Yeah,
we use it Premiere Pro.
Oh wow, you've got some high end stuff there then.
Yeah. Well,
as high end as it goes,
Yeah, well, for a long time we've and just COVID kind of killed it for us. But we had a little side like video production business.
Okay.
And so
that explains a lot.
Yeah, so we already had cameras and lights and stuff. So it was easy to kind of know how to approach doing it. It's evolved over the last year or so that we've been, a little over a year that we've been doing it. But so we already had a subscription to Adobe Creative Cloud, and even though we've been doing business, we kept it because we're editing all the time, and it's a tool I'm familiar with now.
Yeah, that makes sense. How many cameras do you have? And what camera?
What we're using, we have a couple more cameras that if I could get the right stuff to mount some of the other DSLRs, I'd use those over, try to use them over my older GoPros, just because the picture would be a little better. But we are currently using 2 Canon T5Is. And then I have kind of the one behind us is just a little Sony Vixia camera. It's not my favorite, but it's small, it's lightweight, and I can put it up on the curtain rod behind the kit just to get a shot from there. Usually my favorite thing about that shot is if I'm wearing my hat backwards, then people can see what the hat says because it's in the back of the camera, which is a stupid reason. And then Loretta uses
behind, to be honest. So the behind shot for me is my favorite shot if I can get away with it.
It's a cool shot, yeah. And Loretta is using a GoPro Hero 6 with a Karma grip. And then we have 2 GoPro Hero 3s, which is our overhead shot. And kind of one of my favorites, just because I think it looks cool, is the one that kind of it's like mounted on the stand I've got my Tom on. And so it's kind of coming up under that symbol, looking as I'm playing. And I think it looks neat because it moves a little bit with the stand. So
Yeah.
we're shooting.
What you're saying, you have some great shots. I mean,
six cameras. Yeah.
That's a lot. That's a lot to be working with.
But one of the cool things about
time.
Go ahead.
That'll take you some time to edit 6 cameras.
Well, but here's the cool thing with Premiere is and once I learned this, it revolutionized everything. You can create like endpoints for all of them, which is always my first stick click, which I don't usually have in the videos, but it's just for me to edit. And it'll sync all of the cameras up. And then on my display screen, it'll have the selected camera and it'll have all 6 of them with smaller things. I can hit play and click on each camera as I want to edit it, and I can edit it in real time.
You can do that in Final Cut too. There's a way to do it in Final Cut. Final Cut's got this feature called synchronize, because I don't usually do more than 3 cameras, mostly 2 if I'm doing multi-shots. My whole thing is I move drums around and cymbals around, and I move cameras around all the time. So you don't see the same shot by me, but it's usually this 2 cameras most. Maybe once in a while I'll do 3. But the trick I've learned is, because what I do is I'll take I'll do my mixes in Logic, and then I'll bring them into Final Cut, and then basically I may even take 4 or 5 mixes because I'm not sure which one I'm picking yet, and I'll pick it in during the video shot, and I'll sync those audio to one of the cameras. So I sync it, and that I call it sync number 1, and then I take number 1 and I sync it to the other camera, and I go to multi-camera. I make it a multi-camera view. And then I just edit multi-camera in Final Cut, basically doing swipes, just cuts, and it bounces it. And then you can go back and you can kind of move things. Like if you get your cymbal hit a little early, you can make it go a little later if you want, where the switch happens. But I don't line everything up on top of one another, and then do that whole thing, and then the audio, and then I cut, and then the V and B and B and blade. Like somebody showed me how to do it with the blade and. And this multi-camera view just works. I have enough RAM in my computer to pull it off, and for me, like really fast. Now that I added the green screen, the green screen was even easy. Because let's say the green screen in both shots. What I do is I put keyer on both shots. I drop the keyer onto it, which shows me I've got the green screen's now black. And then I put the video underneath that I'm going to sync it to. And then all I have to do is size the video to fit into the green screens. And it's like boom, 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 boom. It's like fast. Yeah. I do it fast. It's like.
Well, the very first cover we did was Migraine by 21 Pilots. And I did it with the stacked cameras, and it took me 2 hours at least to edit a 4-minute song, and I was like, this is going to be a problem.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So I just started. I was like, I know this is possible, I just haven't done it. So I just Googled it, or searched for it on YouTube.
Yep.
And it does it. If you're using more than one camera, I mean it takes a lot of work out of it. It's a work smarter, not harder tool.
Yeah, I think when we talk about making drum covers, you've got to talk about working smarter. Otherwise, you could spend weeks on a cover. I mean, editing and just right and doing all the. I mean, you can do in Final Cut. I can do things like I can put the filter effect in there. As long as I do it at the beginning, it stays with all of them. Like even the Ken Burns effect, which kind of goes the in out effect. That one. That's Ken Burns. If you put the Ken Burns effect on at the beginning, you can actually have every time you do a cut, it does the Ken Burns on that particular camera. So it's doing it itself. You know what I mean? If you make a short cut, it's really fast, and if it's like a long cut, it's creeping in. You know what I mean?
That's pretty.
I mean, there's so much you can actually do with these editing programs, and working smarter is definitely something you want to do. Thank you, everybody that's stuck around so long.
Yeah.
You guys got to go to gigs, see a Tate, see Eric, anybody else who's bailing. I understand, but we got 12 still strong in here, and we're an hour and 15 in. People come in and out of my stream. That's the cool thing about it, just like our videos, they bounce in and out, and that's
Right.
great. I just appreciate everybody that shows up on the show for a while. And I'm gonna have Tate Berkey back again. We're gonna talk about Chicago one day. That's the goal.
He did a Chicago cover not long ago that was phenomenal.
Who? Tate did? Yeah, Tate does Chicago great. I mean, he does Chicago really well. Let's just leave it at that. I love playing Chicago, and I've done a lot of Chicago songs. I got like 50 of them up there, but they all me just trying to be Danny Serafin like I was when I was a kid. They're bad. I think they're actually pretty good, most of them, but it's just a different thing. Tate really is. He's studying right now, so that's there's something when you're young and you're studying, and you've got your chops together and tight, and then there's something when you get older and you want to play a different aspect of it. I'm always going for kind of getting my groove on things now. That's all that matters to me, is having fun with me playing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The guys that want it perfect, it's like, I'm sorry, I can't. I'm not that guy. This is why I don't do worship covers, by the way. I have a friend who a guy named Sergio, I forget his last name. He came down to the studio once. He used to live in Miami. I think he lives in northern Florida now. He does a lot of worship church gigs. And Sergio plays all the worship covers exact. And there's that whole group of worship drummers. They play everything just like Hillsong, to the T.
Yeah.
And I can't do it. I don't want to do it either. Let's put it that way. I don't want to do it. It's worse than I can't, because when I'm in church and I have to learn the songs for somebody and the worship leader wants it a certain way, I usually find what it is. But I have no desire to kind of play drum covers exactly like the guys on Hillsong. Go watch them play it. They do a better job of it. I mean, go watch the original video. You can watch the 5 drummers playing on it. That's the way it works. Right.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, in doing like what you and I and a lot of the guys and people in our chat here do is, we're playing with, pre-recorded stuff. So the only way to kind of make it personal is for you as a drummer to bring your, your own flair and flavor and kind of sensibilities to it. And also, just as a side note, if anybody wants to do an Elevation worship cover, they will block you.
Do that?
Yes.
Are you kidding?
Seriously, a friend of mine and I were going to do a vocal and drum thing for their song Rattle. And I was like, I'm just going to throw this up and just test it first. So I just, exported a blank video with the song in it. And it wasn't like normally where it's like, you can't monetize this, but we'll allow it. They were like, no. You cannot. Nobody will be able to see your video globally. Nobody. And I was like, all right, well, we'll do another song. So we'll find another band to cover. So now we're going to do a Weezer song instead.
Well, that's quite a difference, isn't it?
Yes. We took it in a whole different direction. Yeah.
Monetization and YouTube publishing and copyright, I mean, it's absolutely off the chain. It's off the chain. And the funny thing is, what does that tell you about Elevation and their message about money?
Well, and it's sad because, like, I liked some of the stuff their pastor says, and I liked some of the music they're cranking out. I mean, it's pretty cool. And I'm like, that it's disappointing. It's like, at any rate, but it is what it is. And then I think that Hootie and the Blowfish is another band that will block you. Not because I've tried to do a cover, but we tried to do a funny bonus video earlier on, and I had one of their songs as a clip, just like a 10-second clip, blocked the whole for it. So if you go watch it now, it's like 10 or 15 seconds where we're not even talking. you can't hear us because I had to mute it so we could keep the video up. But it's Drum Man. Oh, hey, Drum Man 190. He's in. He said in one of his videos that what he does, and I started doing this, before he spends time prepping a song and filming it, he'll run it through his editing software, just make a blank video with the song, toss it up on YouTube to make sure that it's clear.
Yeah, I when Matthew did that. Hi, Drumman 190. Matthew, nice to have you on today. I remember when he made that video because I made something similar about a different angle of that same topic. But the funny thing was the example I used was 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover by Paul Simon. And I got blocked in 2018 with that video. I couldn't put it up because it was Steve Gadd, you know, and Paul Simon, and I was playing it along to it, and they almost threatened to, like, you know, give me strikes and everything. It was one of those things. And then about a week after I did that video, it was what's his name? John, Matthew's friend, Drum MCK or else, you know.
Oh, LC. Yeah. I don't
LC, yeah, John. He put up 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover with Paul Simon. I was like, what the heck? So I ran to my computer and found that video and put it back up there, and I got it on. So I was like, yeah, finally. So I thought no one was ever to see that video, you know? But yeah, I mean, Bob Dylan, you can't put Bob Dylan up there. Bob Dylan does not want his music played. There's a Fleetwood Mac, the Eagles. You just stay away from that stuff, you know. But
I heard Zeppelin is like,
I don't have the, you know, the amount of stuff I do. I learn if it's going to work or not work when I publish it in private. And if it gets blocked there, I've had videos. I actually have a folder of videos that are blocked. I have 8 of them I've done in the last year that are just blocked. Billy Joel, you know, Scenes from Italian Restaurant, things I love to play. You know what I mean? And they're just now. I had Roberta Flack, Feels Like Making Love. I mean, I couldn't believe that one got blocked. You know, so you just never know. But I don't have the energy to put the video up. Somebody said put like 20 seconds of it up or 30 seconds of it up and see if it goes or not. But I don't even have the energy to do that. You know, for me, it's like I'll roll the dice. Let's see.
Yeah, and that's what I've done. I did that for almost the whole year. Just roll the dice, and we've been very lucky. And if it's a band you've covered before, and you know that their stuff's good, then it's no worries. But if it's a new song, now I am doing that just to save time, because I would get super angry, just and frustrated if especially like we were talking about that Elevation song. If I brought this guy in to do vocals and he spent his time doing that, and we got it all edited and I put it up and we couldn't show it, I'd be like, man, I don't waste my time. I wasted my friend's time, you know?
Yeah. I've seen a couple videos of Rattle though. I don't know who's doing them then. Maybe they're out of the country or something.
That's weird. Yeah. Oh man.
Like what I will do sometimes is search and see if the video is being allowed to be played. And if it's like 10 years old, there's a reason why they're still on there. You know, it was 10 years old and they never took it down for some reason.
Right.
But, I will say Instagram's kind of weird too. You know, you throw stuff on Instagram, and a lot of times it'll get blocked on Instagram. But whenever I get blocked on Instagram, I always fight Instagram. I don't have the nerve to fight YouTube because I've got too many thousands of subscribers now to roll the dice that they're going to take my channel away from me. You know what I mean? I work so hard to get where I'm at. It's like, so I won't, if YouTube says no, it's like, okay, I'm not fighting Google. It's not worth it, you know. But Instagram sends you something and they say, if you want to appeal, it's the last sentence. There's a little link in appeal. You can barely tell it's a link. And I click on the word appeal and I say, yeah, it's my video, Earl Bennett. I check yes, and then they put it back up. 99% of the time. Now, a month later, they take it down again for some reason, but that's...
No, I've not had that happen on Instagram yet. I'll have to look into the Rattle thing more. Maybe I'll have to put that back on the schedule. Let's see. Zach's Drums and Golf asked about what plans were for the channel moving forward. And it's a pretty simple plan. We're gonna keep doing drum covers.
That's a good plan to me. It works for me.
You know, I try to be intentional about you know, I do go around and I'll find new drummers and to subscribe to and engage them and help them like help them grow in terms of like you know, by subscribing to their channel and giving them another sub and so yeah, like I have to be careful because I can become like number obsessed and it's I try not to do that because it's like when I get obsessed like that, it kind of takes me out of why I'm really doing it, right? And the reason I'm doing it is because I love music, I love playing, I love sharing it, and I want to try to leave something positive, you know, with the people that are watching, and so we'll continue to do that, and we've just started doing. It's not a new idea. Matthew Drumman 190 does it, and you've done it, Earl. I think you gave us 2 official shout outs, 1 inadvertent shout out. And so we've started incorporating that. And then we'll have like next week, we have an unboxing for a new thing in the Drumatic that I'm really excited about. Earl, you know what it is. We've talked about it because I was like, hey, is it all right if I cancel this order? And
right.
So we're excited about that. And then so anyway, so we're doing different things, and I've started experimenting with the shorts, which is definitely just kind of it's kind of fun. It's just kind of a neat format, and not that I would never stop doing full drum covers because that's what I love the process of it. I like sharing the song, and I don't really like just sharing 15-second songs. So if I'm totally honest, the short thing is just a way to bump my views up and to get, you know, to try to bring a few new subscribers to the channel that wouldn't have found us, you know, otherwise. So that's kind of my shameless, like, try to draw people in. So
I mean, there's some validity to doing the shorts. I do shorts on Instagram. That's where I do them.
Yeah.
But what I'm doing on Instagram is I'm basically taking my full video, and all I do is I load them on this iPad that I'm shooting today's show from, and I have enough hard drive space. And in the morning I get, and this goes back to our production meeting stuff. You know what I mean? I literally sit with all the videos from a couple months. I usually have like at least like 2 months worth of videos on here, and I'll wake up in the morning and I'll be sitting there and I may say, all right, I'm going to release this video on YouTube, and I'll write a little description and I'll release it. And it'll be at like 5 o'clock in the morning. My wife's still not up. And then I'll go in iMovie and I'll drag another video in, and I'll make a 40-second clip or a 50-second clip. And I'll basically take that clip and then upload it to Instagram.
Yeah.
And I'll hashtag it. And that's my process. And then maybe I'll do it like midday sometimes. I'll just go, hey, let's take another piece of a video and I'll hashtag it and throw it up on Instagram. So it's not like I'm building it in Final Cut. I'm taking my edited videos and just throwing them up there.
Right.
On Instagram. So Instagram is just a way to get people to see me there and maybe channel them to YouTube. But I'm not sure it actually happens. I don't think it actually works. I think most people on Instagram stay on Instagram. Most people on YouTube stay on YouTube. There's a couple of us that do the cross pollination. Those of us trying to get our channels going.
Right.
But the short thing, I never would think of putting the shorts on YouTube. Because I post so many one day, almost a video a day I post these days. So I mean, every once in a while I'll drop a day just because I think you guys hate me. You know, like I don't want to watch another Earl video. Why are you putting up there?
No.
Turn this guy off. Why is he posting another video today? And why is it jazz today? Where did jazz come from today? Why isn't he playing what's that Christian song doing there? You know, why is he playing the 70s? You know, I thought he played the Carpenters. I have one guy who loves the Carpenters. He's like, you gonna play another Carpenters song? I was like, yeah, I'll eventually do it, you know. But Drumman 190 had a question about the green screen and choosing songs. We kind of talked a little bit about that early on, but not exactly why we choose songs. I think we both agreed that we choose songs because there's something that inspires us. But you plan yours out, and that's what we talk mostly about. And I don't plan mine out. I will say this about me choosing songs. The way I choose songs is if I hear something during the week, the only thing I do is I go to Spotify, find the song, and I put it in what I call a future song playlist. And then at the end of the week, I'll basically bounce some of those songs into Logic. I'll cut them up into export files, and then I'll drop them into extract stems, and I'll create my drumless track. And then I have them in a folder, and then I'll go into Logic and open up a Logic folder and drop extract stems in, and then I'll start cutting videos. And I have a folder full of extract stems, of songs I've done and mostly that I haven't done. And that's where I start creating videos from. As far as the green screen goes, I'm having a blast, drum in. This is a lot of fun for me. But you want to watch an expert at it, go watch Chadwick Perry. I've already thrown his name out a bunch of times, but he's been my inspiration for the green screen. And there's a lot of cool things you can do. I just did a video for this morning before I got on here. I was in here about 7:30, and I was learning this song for Sean Woodley, basically Heavenly Places, and there's no video for the song. So I went on to YouTube, and I found somebody did some inspirational music with like all kinds of like mountain landscapes and stuff. And I basically stole 5 minutes of that. It's real easy to steal. You just use the record feature on your iPhone or your iPad, put it in landscape mode, hit record. You just record as long as you want to record, and you stop record, and you drag it in, and you do the green screen thing, the keyer, and then drop it underneath, and then just kind of fit it in. You might have to do a little adjustment fitting it. But this stuff was all 4K stuff, so it was like dropped to 70p, say 720p, and it worked great. I'm having a blast. So now we will have a hard stop by 11 o'clock. I promise, Eric. I have to be off. I have yoga class at 11. So
okay, that's all right.
It's my hard stop. But my iPad may decide to change that because it's at 16% right now. So
gotcha. If Earl drops out, we'll know what happened. Well,
didn't make it, But any other thing?
Zach Drums is asking, what are shorts? Is it a new format in YouTube? It is. It's kind of their like TikTok, I think, is kind of how I heard it described. And I watched a couple of videos to do a little research kind of on what they are looking for. And they want it shot like vertically, which drives me crazy, just as a side note, as a video guy, because, screens are, this way, not this way. Right. So they want it shot vertically. They'll allow up to 60 seconds, but they give more preferential treatment to 15-second videos. So just our experience has been with a normal cover, depending on it, it fluctuates, but we'll get 100 to 200 views in like a week. Each of our shorts have gotten 400 views overnight. So for us, that's a big bump in numbers, So
is that adding anything to your subscriber base?
It's not as much as it is the views. I think we've picked up like 5 subscribers this week. It's kind of slowed down. We went from like 200 to 300 in like a month, which was for us quickly because, it took us months to get to 100. And then 2 to 3 was like, and then it kind of feels like it's kind of slow now, which again is fine, right?
But that's funny that you have to do it in vertical. So it's not. Is it something you take your 9:16 ratio film and you kind of square it out, or do you actually film one camera vertical now?
What I've been doing is I've been treating it as a separate process. So I have a little ring light which I'm using over here today just to give us a little light in here, and it has a little place for my phone. So when I'm practicing, I'll just set it up so my shorts are just quick clips of me practicing, and I'll sync it up with the song and just chop it. So I'm shooting it vertically with my phone.
That's really interesting. That's an interesting concept. And they're giving preferential treatment to that. That's interesting.
There's like, I don't know how it all works, with all their algorithms and all of that stuff, but there's something that they're calling the short shelf. And so anything that's done vertically and is shorter than, again, they allow, I think, 60 seconds, but if it's 15 seconds or short, it gets put on that shelf for people to see at a different, oh yeah, I sound real educated on this. At any rate, so if you're, and my phone is at 20%. If, so like if you're putting them up, you know, horizontal video and you're finding that you're like, I'm only getting like 20 views, 30 views, try filming it vertically, cut the time down. And 15 seconds is tough. I just did a short for Mood Rings by Reliant K, which is, I can't wait to get this up, the cover up, because it was Loretta's idea and it's brilliant and it's funny. Anyway, so like, it's like, oh man, well, this part is exciting. So I kind of want to, you know, and I'll only film, you know, a minute worth and then take the 15 seconds I want. So filming it to putting it up on YouTube, because it's small, there's no editing involved, or there's no, you know, filters or anything to process. I mean, it takes me like 15 minutes to throw it up there. So
that's it's so interesting. They're trying to be Instagram. You know, the thing I have realized something about Instagram lately, the last couple weeks, is that you do get more people looking at it if you put in that strange ratio. So I've been taking some of my, you know, widescreen ratio and just taking the whatever they give me on Instagram.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't like it as much, but it somehow works for Instagram. But I will tell you that because Instagram does allow you to put the wide ratio if you want to, I've had some good response on one video. You know, going back to Matthew's question about the green screen, on Instagram, I have one video that has 1,300 views. I've never had more than like 200 views on Instagram on anything. You know, I just don't have any followers and stuff. And the reason I got 1,300 views on this particular video, I think, was because of the green screen. And it was Aretha Franklin's "You Make Me Feel Like a Natural Woman." It was like all pink and she's singing, her face is right there next to me as I'm playing, you know, and it just took off. I mean, 1,300 views on Instagram is huge for me. I don't know what to say. I mean, if I get, I'm now getting around 100 on my Instagram finally. You know, it's a big deal. I get 100. Of course, it's a big deal. I get 200 on my YouTube channel. You know, when I release a video, somewhere between 150 and 200 on my first day of release. You know, over time it requires more, but it's just a strange world, you know, and how we do these things and why we do these things. But that short thing's very interesting. I don't know. I have to look into that now. Now I see that there's some special way of promoting yourself on YouTube a different way, getting more views.
Yeah. So if you're trying it and you're not getting more views than you normally do, just try shortening it and flipping it vertical, which again messes with my head because I hate vertical video because it's like that's not usually how we consume, you know.
No, I hear you.
So and extract stems, Daddy Drums David, he's the one that told me about extract stems. And at first I was just whatever somebody else had created drumless tracks for and put on YouTube. I was like at the mercy of that. And another friend of mine, YouTube friend of mine, Harry Hansen, he said, talk to David, Daddy Drums. He uses a software. So I reached out to him and he told me about it. So I immediately, got a hold of the software, and the sky's the limit. And now I don't have to do a song that I don't really want to do because I had a drumless track for it. I can, create drumless tracks I want to play. And that sounds like that's been your experience too, Earl.
Well, when I first started on YouTube, I would have to find the YouTube drumless tracks. Of course, there's no guide rhythm. There's no click. There's a couple guys that were posting them from Rock Band, pretty much. You'd find them. And it was great, but it wasn't, I was having to do songs I didn't want to play.
Right.
And I was getting bored with that. So right around the time my son passed away, maybe a couple months before that, I started doing whatever I wanted to play, but I'd have to bury the other drummer. You know what I mean? The original drummer. And I really did. I did some that got some pretty good hits, like "Just the Two of Us" was a Steve Gadd song. Um, I did a Bread cover. I did some Danny Seraphine stuff. I had to bury him, and those are the songs I wanted to play. Carpenter song. I had to bury the drums, and then all of a sudden, Jeff Holden told me about X-Track Stems. He was starting to make all these drumless tracks for people. He would post his drum video with him playing drums, but the track would be gone. And he said, and then he started posting just the track. He would just the track that he made drumless. And I was like, where are you making these drumless tracks from? And he said, this is something called X-Track Stems. And he said that Trey B told him about it. So as soon as I got X-Track Stems, the last year and a half, forget about it. I'm crazy now. Now I love playing, so I'll play what I want to play. And X-Track Stems lets me play anything. I can play anything I want. I get rid of the drummer. And it is the greatest thing ever. For drum cover guys, I don't think there's anything better, to be honest. But apparently there's 2 or 3 other programs that do this. But I just don't know them. So
well, X-Track is I don't know, so easy to use too. Like you don't have to be a studio engineer to figure it out. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I agree. It's simple.
I love it.
And what I do is I just bring all 4 stems into Logic. I bring in the other, the bass, the vocal, and the drums. And a lot of times, I don't know if you know how to do this in Logic, but you can create a click track in Logic.
Okay.
Using the drum track. I don't know if you've ever done this.
No.
It's called mapping. So you go up to the conductor track and you right click and you'll find something called beat mapping under tempo. It's usually not checked. So I should just have it checked in mine. I should set my templates up with it. But it's so easy for me now. I just go there, right click, beat mapping, and then I take the drum track and I highlight it and I'd say map. There's like one of the things that just lets it map it, and it maps a click track. And a lot of times it's perfect. Even though the track moves, the click moves, it's actually perfect to the track. So sometimes I'll take the drums out, mute them, and just play with the click. But other tracks, they don't want to play that nicely. So I'll just play along with the drummer. And then I take the drummer out, and then I'm in there. And that works too. Either way works for me. And sometimes I have both in there, the click and the drummer. So it helps me through the tough parts.
What I do, probably making it more difficult for myself than I need to, but I'll create the drumless track, and then I'll kind of run it back through like GarageBand, and I use an app called Tempo, which is a click track app, which is fantastic. And I'll record like 8 beats to count in. And then, cause I figure the track was recorded with a click originally. So if something's off, it's not I know it's not the track, it's this guy. And, but that's how I sync the cameras up too. So it gets me into the tempo as much as it is functional for recording, for video recording, syncing audio. And if you're doing some of the collaborations that we've done to send a track with that count in to another musician and have them, on one of those beats, even if they're whatever it is, but like counting in or clapping in, so that we have the same endpoint, it makes it so much easier to sync that, up. Yeah. X-Track Stems is just awesome. And I think you get different, depending on how something was recorded, you kind of, it works. I don't know, it sounds better than others, but I find that once I've laid the drums in, you kind of, anything that sounds a little funky, when you've pulled the drums out, when you add your kit in, it kind of covers all that.
Yeah, it comes back together. There's no doubt about it. It works that way. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things you could do in Logic for your click to make it easier than bringing tempo in. You know what I mean? You could actually make, like, I'm on 10% now. My thing's telling me you're 10%. Thank you. Don't worry, we only got 5 minutes left, maybe. I mean, the funny thing about me is I usually set mine up so that Logic counts off 4 first, And then sometimes I'll have another 4 bars before the track starts, but sometimes it'll land right on. So I'll get 4 bit. That's all I get is 4 clicks. So it'll go click, 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 boom. This morning's track, it had an extra beat, so I had a 5. And I have to basically do the psychological thing of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 1, and I come in. But I'm too lazy. This is me being lazy to fix stuff. I just work around it. The other thing I'll do in my drum tracks, help me through those, because a lot of the stuff I'm playing, believe it or not, was not done with a click. You're talking about the 60s and 70s. There's no click. They were playing together in a room. This makes a click for those situations where the click moves. That's what tempo mapping really does. And it's very cool. When you're talking about if you're doing 2010 worship songs, they're all dead on a click. And you could take any click, find the tempo in tempo. And if it says it's 77, you could set 77 on your metronome, line it up in your DAW, and put 77 on there, and it's going to lock in. There's just no doubt about it. It's going to do it. It's going to lock perfectly because they grid everything. It's all gridded to death. There was no grid in the 70s. There was no grid in the 60s. No grid in a lot of the 80s and 90s even. You'll still find it going around. It moves a little bit. They might have been playing with a click, but it'll still move.
There's a human.
It's really an interesting world.
I think that it's important, and I did it later on, but you gotta, I think you have to know how to play with a click, because there's, you're gonna have to do that at some point. And then also being a good timekeeper is what we do as drummers. But there is something that I think when we try to be machine perfect, that you do lose that kind of the human element to the music, the little give and take that naturally happens when people are playing together, especially in a live setting. And there's something beautiful about that, the human element to it.
It's music. It's music is the thing. And this is what I think not your generation, because you're not the generation that's going to it's really locked into click track and editing music and Pro Toolsing it to death, beat mapping it to death, or beat detecting it to death. You're not that group, but because a lot of the guys in the 90s, the Green Days and stuff, they played with clicks, but they moved. Okay.
Right.
All you have to do is take a Green Day into X-Track stems, drag it into Logic, and beat map it, and you'll find out, no, it moved. You'll see where it moves. It goes 110, 111, 109, and it kind of moves as you go through it. He's never exactly on, but they played it together so it felt right. And that's the difference. What music is you feel right. And a lot of these songs, you don't realize that they're speeding up, but they do. But that's what makes it music. And I think that what's going to happen for musicians in the future is they're going to have to turn off the darn beat detective and start playing together, and let the music breathe again like music, and you'll start to feel life again. Like, I am so sick of listening to music that just sounds so perfect. Like the song I did this week, the producer on the song basically tempo mapped it so there was a retard in it. And it wasn't a nice tempo map. It wasn't so I had to kind of listen to it a bunch of times. I said, can you fix the click so I can kind of follow the slowdown that I'm coming out of? I had to do a swell out on a one-handed swell out, basically, with the tempo changing so slightly and weirdly, Yeah. But they didn't play it together, but he wanted that effect. So it's kind of crazy what we're doing today is what I'm saying. We're doing stuff, making everything perfect, and then trying to put in humanness into it, as opposed to playing it human and making music together and fixing where they need to fix the minor things. We've gotten we're way out of whack now. But that's me on my soapbox. Old white dude, just privileged to live in a world where I could just play music any way I wanted to. I didn't need a click track, Just learn how to play with a click track. You better learn how to do that.
Yeah.
Anyhow, that's 7% now. It's 10:50 almost. So let's wrap her up. So
well, Ash, I've been playing drums since I was 12, so that's 35 years. You could do. I'll let you all do the math. I'll do it for you. That puts me at 47. And we started our YouTube. We like registered on YouTube, but that's not the right word. Like in September of 2019, but we didn't actually start the channel, put any content on it until March 24th of 2020. So we just had our 1 year anniversary. What is it? April last month.
Yeah. That's great. Awesome.
Yeah.
My YouTube channel officially started in 2006. That's when I registered with YouTube. I logged in. So they say that's when I started my channel. But my channel did not start until 2017. Gotcha. And when I started, I had 31 subscribers. And if it wasn't for guys like Drum Covers by Bill and Drumman 190, basically throwing my name out there and let me get in the community and bringing me around a little bit, that gave me the push. So that's what I try to do with this show, guys, is I try to give guys the push. Eric, I'm glad I could help throw your name out there to my subscribers that don't follow you. I think a lot of your subscribers came over here, and that's cool. And let's keep encouraging one another. And we didn't get too heavy today. I didn't know where we were going to go. So, I mean, I'm kind of happy we didn't get heavy. I've had a heavy enough week in other respects that I didn't need to get heavy today. But,
absolutely.
You know what I mean? But it's been a lot of fun hanging with you today. And,
same.
Thanks for being on the show. And let's do this again sometime. We'll, even just you and me just do it just to hang out, kind of thing. So
absolutely. Well, it's been my pleasure. I'm honored that you wanted me to be on your show. So thank you so much. And thanks to everybody that hung out and listened to us talk.
Thank you, everybody that's been on the live stream today. I so appreciate you all. And again, stay healthy. Keep having fun what you're doing.
Yeah.
And God bless you all. And we'll talk again next time.
Yeah.
I'll see you guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.